Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough and testing of Black Ice 11.1 with the latest versions, and I don't forget all the numbers, latest version of Third Reich events, German gameplay augmentation, units of the Third Reich, and the D-Worms mods. We're going to continue playing here. It's March 36. But if you're new, again, I know I just said at the end of the last video, but you can hit that subscribe button, and of course you can like the video. It all helps. Holland would have nukes if Arno was in charge. Well, yeah, he might start a nuclear program. I don't know if there's any Dutch people smart enough to figure out how nukes work. I mean, they knew how to push the buttons, but actually how to build them. But yeah, okay, so we're going to get some of our detachments. Yes, we want engineers from my motorized support brigade. Yes, I want to upgrade my anti-tank for motorized support. Heavy anti. Oh, okay. See, now here we do heavy anti-tank guns or tank destroyers. We're going to do tank destroyers here for motorized support brigades. Engineers. Anti-air upgrades. Yes, I want to do that. And Udet leads AMP-T. Now this is from GGA, and STAP gains popularity but loses air organization, and particularly right now this harmful is build speed, but hopefully that will change. We of course right now should be fully just building ICs this first year. I'm not even doing any upgrades or reinforcements. I'm making a lot of supplies because we need lots of supplies for various things, but everything else is. Oh yes, I've already talked about that. Well, now this is well, the winter relief campaigns, that's specifically the rant was on, the one that was the winter of 41, 42, the winter relief with the coats. Yes, I have done that, but the winter health was a sort of an every year thing under the Nazis, at least. Okay, we can continue training here. This is a TRE. That's actually, this really fascinating because they've added these sort of training bases here. Now, I don't do a one-for-one match because that would be too much, but these really helped Germany. You can see what's going on here. This is a great picture. You got this, well, at least 3-story standard story, then maybe whatever is up in the attic. I don't know if that's just storage or whatnot, and I don't know if this is obviously like a story below it, so I don't know if there's a basement that you go into, or I don't know quite know. There's at least a 3-story building here that's pretty big for instruction kind of things of various types, and then you have these garages here and then along here, and I presume these are all the cars that and trucks that are normally in these garages, and there, and then the motorcycles here. This is the motor sports school of the National Socialist Craft Carts, which is the motorization, the NSKK. It used to be a sub-element of the SA back in the day, but they got out of from under the SA before the big, killing off of the leaders of the SA. So they're their own independent organization. Well, these are set up all over Germany. I don't know quite how many of them there are. There's another, like a staff photo up here of one. And these are training people. Not just NSKK members, but these are training people to be car mechanics, to be car drivers. Car driving is fairly rare in Germany, where motorcycle driving is very common. So a lot more men know how to drive, particularly men, know how to drive motorcycles that don't know how to drive cars. So you can't drive a car, well. I mean, not that they couldn't figure it out somehow, but not being a good driver. It also means you're not a truck driver very well for, the army. So this is training, mechanics, training drivers. This is really helping motorize Germany. And so there's a bunch of stuff going on. So they build a bunch of this over time. These schools over, I don't know how many, but probably more than 10 of these things around Germany that are set up. And this is one of the elements of the NSKK. We get a little bonus from that. A little bonus to the police. Expander heavy. This is Leipzig. Okay, anti-air focus for motorized support brigades. we're going to do self-propelled because if I'm going to attach this to a unit, instead of going heavy, I want to go fast. So we're going to go mobility is the future, the SPAA. And for the just mixed support brigades, we're going to go anti-tank for that. So we can come here, click here, and you can see now some of these aren't maybe necessarily showing up just yet, because if we pick like a self-propelled AA and we haven't got to research self-propelled AA, they don't show up yet. So there's the prerequisite of also having that eventually. So that's a 42 technology. So we won't be getting the that scientists obtain text working at some facility in Holland, I think. Oh, did they just stole it? Oh, okay. I don't, didn't know they did that. Okay, diplomatic port. I'm not going to go into all of that. Okay, we have AA available for motorists. Yes, I want AA guns for my. These don't always fire in the best order, but yeah. So now we have anti-aircraft attachment. We just don't have self-propelled. We could have got that was the choice between those two, or not have either one. But we're going to go that. You can see as self-propelled AA artillery at least one, and we don't have that. So that will be in time. And once we get that, we'll have that tech to the unit. That's just trying to explain to people. It's sort of complicated. It's a cool system they set up. Reich organization. This impressed me as a child. I saw this thing here, but the block, the Stella, which is like the neighborhood, the what is it? Ostgruppe, der Crest, and der Gau. The whole thing. Der Gau is the Gauleiter. The Gau is sort of the province that the Nazis organized up in, and everything's organized in Germany at all of these levels by the party, which is integrated very much with the government. The party and the government are becoming one as time goes on. Nazi Germany was a totalitarian state, for sure. Okay, yes, we want the school for the SS. Direct fire unit, we're going to keep them from continuing. Yes, good. What is going to that? The artillery brigades needs to be, yeah. That. Okay, here we're going to choose rocket artillery. Here's the choice. Artillery, rocket artillery, or pack. We're going to go rocket, because most infantry divisions will get a standard artillery brigade. Yes, you may have that. More money for fuel. Figured that was going to come in time anyways. I'm going to keep that up for too long. Lust Ministerium, so the Air Ministry, yes, we need a big one. There's Speer, there's Goering. They're looking at the building plans. We need a big one, yes. Goering needs a big building to house him. And Bernescher, Sender, Paul, Nittau, Berlin, Deutsches Freshner, Red Funk. So this is television, the greater Berlin area. I don't know quite how far out. In 1930, well, first aired 1935. In 1935, they get televisions. Now, when it says here, and I got this, did the research and got this, about 160 thousand viewers saw the Olympic Games on a few private TV sets and in many public TV chambers. What these public TV chambers were sort of like movie theaters. And they broadcast them up, I think, primarily on like a movie screen kind of thing. But it was live all around Berlin. Now, a lot of these theaters that saw them, it was actually sent in via wire. It was cabled. It was early cable for the movie theaters. But around the TV, around the Berlin, and continuing, it's for a few hours a day normally. I mean, much more during the Olympics in '36. And it started out with Achtung, Achtung by Ursula Pranchnik, that woman there, up until about the end of the war. That was her daily job. To start. She was the announcer woman, but Achtung, Achtung in the beginning. Go through this. I'm not right now pronounce all of the German there. It may have disappeared, but they had a sampling of it on YouTube for a number of years of what all this was, and that's sort of where I got these screen caps from. At least some of them here. Okay, ABS tracks and suspension, which will probably just, that was over, which we probably want to do that. That. Stop that. And 100 kilogram bomb. Okay, that should be one and done. In about 1936, Berlin, Greater Berlin area. I don't know how far outside of Berlin they had television. Paris, Greater sort of Paris area had television. London had television. And New York City area had television. I don't know if any other major cities like LA or whatever had television in before World War II. But those are the areas that I know had television broadcast daily. When I say daily, I don't know if they were like 7 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever. And it wasn't, in most cases, it was like for 3 or 4 hours or 5 or 6 hours or whatever during the day. Is what it was. It wasn't, 24/7 or anything like that. Plan Z, no Plan Z. Yes, Denmark is real. Arno wants us to fight, or otherwise he wouldn't have brought that up. And Germany also had, because if you look at this, this is a period sort of advertising Germany calling, so it's in English. And so this is Germany's building radio stations to broadcast around Europe, so it helps getting German propaganda out there. No, I didn't say that. Strong arm. Trying to get me in fights with. Things, make sure that is it. Yeah, that's grayed out. Okay. You do eat a lot of herring. I don't know. See, I've not been to Norway. I'm not a particularly big fish eater. I mean, I ate some fish, but not a lot. So I don't know what. I know they used to eat lots of herring up in Scotland. Had been a whole herring industry, huge. Back at this time period, for sure, in the 30s and before. Sending lots of it down into down into England. Okay, fairly new event from Third Reich Events. The Chinese government in Guangzhou would like to purchase some Heinkel HE-111 bombers. This would improve our relations with the Guangzhou clip. That's these guys down here. This is a very real event. Those are the Heinkel sitting in China. Do we want to sell them some bombers? They'll get, I don't know, I think just one, one bomber squadron or whatever. I forget what it was. We'll get a little bit of money and improve relations with them. Or no, we want to support Japan only. Well, they've yet to come to war, but we will sell them and probably presumably train a few mechanics and whatnot to fly, repair and maintain them, and maybe some pilots. So we will sell them some. Well, I can eat some salmon. I'm not, like I say, not a big fish eater. I don't know that I really like mackerel, but salmon or like tuna or albacore or whatever canned, I like that. But no, not a lot of fish. I, don't like sushi. Not a big fish eater. Okay, Energy Magazine, one of the technical magazines of Germany. Radios advanced, nice. Researching that now. Come back to it later. Okay, Core and Army HQs have advanced. Yeah, we'll stop at those. Well, let's do motorized HQs for the fun of it in battle. We'll push ahead on those two. Do we still have more? I guess we do. Okay. Eat salmon on bread. Yeah, I can do that. We'll do capital ship raiders. Yeah. I once caught many years ago on my granddad's fishing boat. Yes, my granddad had a fishing boat. Caught about a 30-pound halibut. Big sucker. Took me hours to get that thing. I mean, I was in my teens, but young teens, I think, at the time. Took me hours to get that thing landed. This is on a rod and reel kind of thing, So yeah, I spent hours fighting a halibut one day. And the only reason I caught him was I got sort of a bird's nest in my reel of messed up line, so I had to drop a lot of line off there to get it all out there, and then to reel it back in right, holding it and getting it done that way. So presumably the halibut had come up to the thing on the bottom and probably whacked it a few times to make sure it was dead or didn't move the bait. And so which a lot of people would have, I probably is relatively inexperienced, would have reacted to that. So, but since I, tried to jerk it or reel it in or whatever, because it would feel like a bite on it. But no, since it was down on the bottom and just sitting there, and so I finally get going, and then I realize that there's something on the end of this thing, and it goes for hours. But let's make gamer eat more fish. No, I'm not going to eat fish. Okay, not more than I already do. A little bit, like I say, not a lot. Got some tuna in cans here, but that's about it. There we go. We'll get researching. That's the biggest fish I've ever caught, about a 30-pound halibut. If it's good quality fish. Okay, let's take a look here. So we only need 37 supplies. We've got, what is that, 60,000 supplies right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to drastically lower our supply production, keep it going. And then let's see how that, we'll wait for the day to click over, so readjust. Still just producing factories. I like that. So that'll be good. We'll keep building up resources. Here we got +7 here, so we're going to, because I really don't need huge sums of money. You really you should either cut back on your sales of supplies, or do what I'm doing is they don't want to sell me oil. I thought they had plenty of oil. I guess they're not liking me for some reason right now. I don't know. But the USA might like me enough. Okay. Let's buy some oil from the USA. It was right about 70. Slightly negative. Now all of these things here are going to cost. You need to trigger these in 1936. They'll go away 1937. But I'm going to wait until right about September 10th or so to trigger a bunch of those things. And then at that point, I will also see about using their new adjusted way to adjust some of the costs. We'll see about that when I get there. And yep, I know this is, for a lot of people, I've been playing this a lot, but I've been playing a lot more than you've been seeing. But I just need to test to see how this is going. One of the things, now that we're in at least slightly negative, we can of course afford it for a while. But I want to see if some smaller trades pop up that I can get. Okay, yeah, we want to build that. Form the Women Rad. This is a GGA event. The way it worked was there's actually sort of a really young sort of Hitler Youth program, but then there's the sort of standard Hitler Youth program that basically all German kids were supposed to be in. You can talk about some of the details, and we're not, obviously Jews and whatever are excluded, but there are resistors. There are both Protestant and Catholic, though the strongest resistance was coming from the Catholic programs, youth programs, but they actually, I think those, not sure, but I think most of those eventually get banned. I just don't remember right now. They probably by 36 they've already banned the Boy Scouts, because the Boy Scouts used to be, a long time ago, it was formed as a religious, just as a generic Christian Protestant, because it sort of formed in England and whatnot, but as sort of a Christian Protestant type organization, but just sort of generic and not overly religious. But so that's banned. So all of the children, boys and girls, need to come into the Hitler Youth. And then after the Hitler Youth, they go into the RAD, the Reichsarbeitsdienst, the German, or the National Labor Service, basically. And so you go into that, and at different stages, it varies how long you need to go into that. And then after that, with conscription, is for the men, you go into the army. So there's military training in the Hitler Youth. There's more military training in the RAD. And now most the early stuff, well, there's some field craft, and it's not so much like fire and movement, but it's how to march in groups, in columns and whatnot, do marching, how to shine your boots, how to fire a rifle, how to clean a rifle, those kind of things. Those are going on in both the Hitler Youth and the RAD. And so by the time with the Wehrkrest system we'll be seeing here, those are doing more military training, but it's all going along. So basically, if you're the right type of German, not a Jew, not somebody being excluded, you're going to go into the Hitler Youth, then you're going to go into the RAD, and if you're a man, you're going to go into the army. That is how that all works. Hello, Norbert. How you doing? That's how it works. The horse vessel. Without Googling it, I know some of you have heard it. Who knows what happens to the horse vessel? What happens to it after the war, or maybe during late war or something? Um, However, the horse vessel, obviously named after horse vessel. It is a vessel or vessel. The SA man who was killed. Does anybody know what happened to the horse vessel? Research progress from Willie Messerschmitt. Yes, I want deploy motorized. Yes, motorized engineers. Don't know. I thought Arno would remember from before because I know I've talked about this before. Maybe he wasn't around. Yes, Norbert got it. You were a girl. You ended up with a BDM. Yes, absolutely. Now, well, the BDM is part of the Hitler Youth. That's the woman's branch of the Hitler Youth. And then, as that event talks about, then you go into the women's rad. Yes, Coast Guard training ship, the Eagle. It's still owned by the U.S. Coast Guard and still in operation. The United States Coast Guard still operates the horse vessel under the name Eagle. Tank destroyer. That's a picture of reenactors. Yes, motorized support brigades. Tank destroyer detachment. Stormtrooper tactics. Hoist up the anchor. Meh. So yeah, it's still around, still being used by the U.S. War booty, war trophy taken after World War II. Hello, Sergey Margaras, how you doing? Thank you very much. Just interesting things like that are still going on from World War II. The effects. The ship named after a minor SA guy that gets himself killed, who becomes one of the martyrs for the Nazi symbols, ends up as the U.S. Coast Guard training vessel. Separation. A little weaker. No, I wouldn't say that. Okay, just this has been bugging me for the last few days, and people talking about this. So I'll go into some of this stuff here right now. Let's just save this just to be safe in case I talk too long and it dies on me. Okay. When it comes to the Nazis, you say weaker sex. I wouldn't say so. The Nazi ideology is they want lots of children. Okay? They want lots of children. So they want women to get married and have children. That's what they want to have happen. Now, they very much acknowledge that there are special women out there that are going to do spectacular things. You have people like Hannah Reich, the pilot, who is an excellent pilot. She remains, to the end of her life, I would say, an unreconstructed Nazi. Maybe not the most, fervent, staunch Nazi, but generally a Nazi until the end of her life. You have Leni Riefenstahl, the filmmaker, the woman who does the Triumph of the Will, the Nazi film, and she also does Olympia or Olympus or whatever, the Olympics movie. Now I have a photo of Leni Riefenstahl. I have a digital, a JPEG, not an actual photo, but I have a photo. I think it was taken in late 1939 or very early 1940. Was at the exact moment Leni Riefenstahl stops being a Nazi. She 100% stops being a Nazi. This photo captures that instant that she stops being a Nazi. You know how I know she stops being a Nazi? You see her face. It was taken in Poland. and she's surrounded by a bunch of soldiers, and they're all looking at something, but the photographer is looking back at her and taking her picture in amongst all these soldiers because she is seeing the shooting of a bunch of Jews. So she was on board with the Nazis, all the good things that the Nazis were sort of quote unquote doing, making triumph of the will and Hitler over Germany, all that stuff. But her sort of first mass execution out in the fields of Poland as she's moving around and I think preparing to make a film covering the the invasion of Poland. I think it's that. I'm not sure. But after that moment, she never makes another propaganda piece for Nazi Germany until the end of the war. To the end. She doesn't do a single bit of cinematography of anything that you install until the Nazis are gone. Nothing. She immediately stops at that. So that photo captures the moment that she sees the horrors of what she helped bring about with her support for the Nazis and making Hitler look good and helping Hitler get elected. She immediately stops being a Nazi at that moment. And so, yeah, she's a spectacular woman. She goes, you can see some of her, she does documentaries down in Africa and some not deep sea diving, but sea diving, underwater photography, but nothing very successful after World War II. So, because nobody wants to employ her because of her association with the Nazi regime. But the Nazis will recognize that there are incredibly talented women out there. And the Nazis are fine with the idea of women working in the workplace, the outside the home kind of workplace. They're fine with that. But they believe that for the benefits of the race, I'm not trying to put my views on this, but trying to put their views. For the benefits of the race, they believe that they should have a population growth. That is at a core of Nazi philosophy. Now, and I'll get to some of my thoughts in a moment, but this is the Nazi thought. So they are doing everything they can to encourage women to get married and have children. Now, there can be a grace period between, childhood and getting married for a few years to do some level of, work, as a secretary or other, I'm talking peacetime right now, not wartime, peacetime, other light sort of work, not working in steel factories or whatever, light sort of work. And they do not just allow, but think that that's proper, think that's proper. But it's best that they, have children and raise the children. But they're looking at, and also again, women that are a bit older, their children are, grown or, in the older stages of, if they've had their 4 children or whatever it is, older stages of the youngest ones are being children, their later teen years, then yeah, they can do some other professional type work. It's not excluding them from a work environment. It's not that they're weak. It's not that they're mentally incapable of it. It's just they want to have that population growth. So culturally, they're looking at everything they can do to get the most numbers of German women working, or being, having children and working in the home. Now the war happens, of course, so they need more labor of all types, and of course, one woman can easily look after 6 young children, sort of like daycare kind of thing. So they you can still have your children, but go to work in the factory, making, artillery shells or aircraft or whatever like that. But that's sort of emergency work for the war. That's sort of the Nazi view of it. They're not anti-women in the workplace. They very much want the population to grow, and they want to have lots of kids. Finding old stamps is very neat, especially of areas destroyed by world wars. Yeah, I'm sure. When I was younger, I used to collect. Still have my stamp collection. Hannah Reich. Yes, she's the pilot. And like I say, she stays until, I think after the war, she's an unreconstructed Nazi until her death. Hannah Reich. Now, my view, I think women are quite capable of doing, and we're not talking physical here because there's definitely body strength issues and whatnot, but quite capable of doing most jobs. They're quite capable of it. And so, that's my view. But I see a tendency in the modern world to encourage women to do most jobs, or to do most non-labor jobs, shall we say. They're not seeming to try to encourage women to be bricklayers or plumbers. For some reason, it's always the office type job or the sort of simple factory type job. It's never the sort of bricklayer or plumber. And I'm not talking like even heavy lifting, but just basic stuff. Where I think, like I say, I think it's fine that they do that kind of work. I think it's good if they want to do that kind of work. But I still sort of kind of think, because this is from my own experience, because my mother, she worked out of the home, but she, was primarily a homemaker. My father worked at that. I think it's best that women are raising children. Not necessarily, you see, now the Nazis, they wanted one woman to have lots of children. That's a different matter. I'm just saying, if you even have just one kid, why are you trying to encourage women to go out and work in the workplace so much? Encourage it. Not to say, like in the past, it was bad. No, it's fine if they do. It's good if they want to do that. That's the if they want to do it. That is perfectly fine and good. But there should be very much, in my opinion, a choice that's up to them to pick the path they want to have, not what society is sort of pushing them in one direction or another. At least that's my take on it. Okay, industry. Here, 1930. Okay, too far in the future, and submarine hull advance. Okay, we're waiting for submarine engines. So we can start researching some of those. That, and we'll stop. Most topics are complicated when it comes to the Nazis. High-speed train record, great. Diplomatic service reports, good. Broadcasting advance, okay. Italy finally conquered and annexing Ethiopia down there. Broadcasting advance, so we want to come here and stop that. Well, I guess we can do tank destroyers. And yes, you may have energy. Right now we're producing plenty of energy. Hello, Mamwaldi. Thoughts on the real alliance with Italy? Not quite sure. Talking Germany's alliance with Italy? Well, I think it would have been better if Italy had stayed neutral. For Germany, it would have been better. if Italy had stayed neutral, if Yugoslavia and Greece had stayed neutral, then the only place the Western Allies or anybody could attack Germany in the Mediterranean would have been trying to land in the south of France. That would have, so that Germany, and when it's just Britain fighting against Britain, you don't have to worry about that. Then once America comes in, they might, with the torch landings and whatnot, but they might not even do that. If France is neutral, Vichy France is sort of neutral, and Italy is neutral, would the Americans liberate France? Vichy France? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a clear answer on that. I can't say I think this or that. They may come down. They may not. I'm not sure. Because de Gaulle, of course, would maybe want to encourage it. Well, no, he would encourage it. Would the Americans have supported invading what otherwise neutral France? Yeah, maybe. So all they would have to do is garrison here. So they wouldn't have all this troops here. And if Italy was a friendly neutral, then they could trade with Germany, whether make weapons to the German designs or, I don't know, import oil from someplace like Iran and then re-export it to Germany, secretly to some degree. So they could trade with Germany. They could be a lifeline out to the rest of the world for Germany. And that would be all this kind of front, because even if you have Romania and Hungary, as your allies in the war with the Soviets, probably Bulgaria would stay neutral as well if Yugoslavia and Greece were neutral. So that whole southern front, it just becomes this little bit of thing, and that's a lot less. Hitler would not have to worry about Mussolini trying to invade Austria. No. I've talked earlier about, you weren't here, I guess, the Three Powers Pact, that Mussolini was worried about that, but eventually Hitler charms him out of that pact, basically, and allows them to take over Italy. So yeah, I think the phrasing was, well, soft underbelly of Europe was always Churchill's thing, but the underbelly isn't soft. There's too many mountains. It would take a lot to convince the Americans to invade a neutral Italy. The Americans know that Spain is making weapons for the Nazis. They're making pistols, I know, for the Nazis. The Nazis are buying in large scale. They're making some other stuff going on. They're selling tungsten that's mined either in Portugal or in Spain and transiting across Spain into occupied France. They know that there's the Blue Division fighting in the east. Now it's pressure from the Americas that gets the Blue Division withdrawn, but they still leave a battalion of diehard Spanish fascists fighting. But America doesn't. America does occupy the Azores from Portugal out here as a anti-submarine kind of thing. They use the Portuguese, running it locally. Like, hey, yeah, the mayor, the local police chief are still the Portuguese guy, but it's, well, we're setting up a U.S. Army base here or whatever, or Navy base, and flying, aircraft off and whatever, and you don't have a choice to buy it because we'll shoot you if you object, basically. So the U.S. does invade Portugal, or the Azores of Portugal, but otherwise doesn't go after Portugal or Spain, and only stops the trading with Spain by cutting off Spain from Germany. Now, Italy would be both a bigger trading partner and, of course, a better armed one than Spain was. So I really don't think America, and Britain wouldn't do it without America's permission. So if otherwise the Mediterranean is at peace, you may have U.S. occupation of, French North Africa, and then from there an possible invasion. I don't know if it's there or, the Normandy type stuff would be the primary ones, or like it was a northern and southern joint invasion kind of thing, or something like that. But that's still a lot less garrisoning than garrisoning all this crap. And you'd probably still get a certain amount of trade during the war from Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, and Greece into Germany. So yeah, a friendly neutral Spain, I think, would be um, a bit better for Germany than what happened, or better than anything that would likely happen with um, Italy actively in the war. It's just like Norway. The amount that by the time that D-Day happens, the amount of what they turned Norway into something of fortress Norway. The amount of building of defensive bunker works, the amount of garrisoning troops. There's at least one armored division, maybe two, sitting up in Norway. Now they're second-rate armored divisions at best, with a lot of out-of-date and captured tanks and whatnot. But all of those units would be better used either fighting on the Eastern Front or being ready to keep an invasion from happening down here. So if Norway would have remained neutral like Sweden was, and still traded like Sweden was with Germany, and that kind of thing, still allowed the trade to happen, the Swedish steel from up here and whatnot, that would have been better for Germany, clearly. And I really don't think whatever food that, because Denmark, I think, was a food exporter at this time, that they still might have exported food to Nazi Germany. I don't, not invading Denmark, if it stayed neutral, probably would have benefited Germany as well. How ready was Italy for a war when the war started? Was their production plans ready? Oh, no, not at all. Italy is entirely incapable of fighting World War II. Mainline divisions. We're not talking, and we'll see some if we. I don't know if we'll get to it today or sometimes. Some ersatz divisions here in Germany, meaning home army divisions. We're not talking home army type divisions or reserve divisions. We're talking primary frontline divisions in Italy. Many of them have World War I artillery pieces. Not the same models, these same guns. Guns that have been used and abused in World War I are still being used in Italy. Most Italian infantry divisions, if not all, have a mountain gun attachment as part of their artillery. Mountain guns are lighter, easier to move through mountains, but they're also less effective in most terrains. Now, part of that reason is that they have them is the spine of Italy, but also in designing, defending early on with their plans of the Three Powers Pact and whatnot, fighting up here in, these mountains, these part of the Italian Alps, if you will, and down here, there's a lot of mountainous terrain that regular, we're not talking about the Alpini divisions, the mountain divisions. There's going to be a lot of use for, potential use for mountain guns for regular divisions. But it is also because mountain guns are cheaper to manufacture, and particularly their ammunition is cheaper to manufacture because it's smaller, easier to make. Because they can't make enough ammo or even enough guns to equip their basic divisions, their sort of primary divisions. Italy is entirely unprepared for the war. Mussolini comes into the war about the day or date that the Germans are occupying Paris. Okay, so Mussolini comes in thinking, oh shit, I got to get in this war to, grab up some French territory here, maybe grab up some French colonies before this is all over. So he thinks he's coming in just before the war ends, but the war is just beginning. Italy is entirely unprepared for World War II. It was a huge mistake. That was the mistake. I mean, the mistake for Germany was also starting World War II. Okay, we get submarine engines and submarine long range. So what I want to do here is, those will be grayed out. Well, this one isn't, but we want to come over and do these and get these being researched as fast as possible. So yeah, no, Italy should not have come in to World War II. And not just in hindsight, because we know Germany loses. It just was ill prepared for it. Oh, another Russian bot. Wow. I guess I'm getting popular in Russia or something. Or they think you want to go wherever war og whatever it is. I have no idea. Don't follow the link. I wouldn't. You can see here this huge, not very deep, but there's a huge artificial lake that they're building out here. And that's a photo after the water's filled. After March C, and this is just an example of one of many sort of civic improvement programs that the Nazis are doing. One, yes, to improve, give the wherever this is, Lower Hanover and Lower Saxony, which sort of means Upper Saxony, and that lower down the river, but up here, as far as I know. But they're doing these types of things all over Germany, partially just to give employment to the men, primarily. Talked about that just a few moments ago, but give employment to people there. And then, of course, you have a lot of boating and other activities. Once the lake is done, that means people will be, employed, selling popcorn or whatever to visitors once it's open going as a public thing. So it will help the economy. But they're doing a lot of that. So I sort of force you, TRE, to spend money on other things. Okay, have fun. Go watch Bond. Hope it was like a good one with Roger Moore or Sean Connery. Okay, I want to keep these episodes from getting too long, so let's sit there and save this. And I think we will end this episode, not the live stream, just the episode here. I want to thank those watching later on YouTube. Thank you so much. Love having you here. See you next time for even more, yes, more Hearts of Iron. And